Hey, Shoal Creek, I wanted to get back to the basics for this week's parenting. Mainly, the importance of getting into the Bible with our teenagers, with our adolescents, and trying to read it and interpret it with them in our own words and for ourselves. I talk to teenagers all the time about how hard it is, or seemingly hard it is, to read the Bible. And when I get into small groups with them, it's funny. We'll get together and we'll talk about Scripture. And it doesn't matter if we're reading John 1 or something from the Psalms or something from the beginning of the book in Genesis. It's kind of like without any prompting or prodding, just kind of on their own, their answers kind of all blend together and sound the same. And so what it feels like's happening when I'm sitting in groups reading the Bible with these students is, instead of really getting into the verses, really getting into each sentence and trying to figure it out, they're relying on some kind of past knowledge about Jesus, some kind of past truth about God, and just stating what are very easy general truths. We might read something that talks about being obedient or being humble, like something from Philippians 2. And the answers, the general consensus about what it's talking about, the students talk about it being about how we should love God and love each other. And so what I'm finding when I'm in small groups a lot of times with students or talking with students is they think they know what the Bible is saying, but really what they're going off of is just kind of a past general accumulation of what they think are spiritual truths that they've kind of picked up here or there and just kind of put in their pocket. And then they kind of reach in and bring it out for when we're talking about it. And I think it's so much more effective and so much more important for students to get into the Bible in their own personal journaling time, not just reading it and audibly talking about it, or in their heads talking about it, but really writing it out and not trying to be massive with what they're getting through, not trying to read 2 or 3 chapters a day, but really just being selective and saying, you know what, I'm going to get in the Bible and read just 3 or 4 verses, or I'm going to read a chapter and pick out 3 or 4 verses and really think about the specifics of what it's saying about my context, what's going on in the stories, what word imagery is being used, and then thinking about how it applies to their life. Because I just would hate for all of our students to go through our services, to go through our children's and youth programs and graduate with just these kind of general principles where, it doesn't matter which chapter of their Bible they're reading, they're just continuing to say, hey, gotta love God and love others. But learning to think about, what does this specific sentence mean to my heart, my soul, and the way I'm going to treat others. And so what we can do, and what I would suggest parents, or if you're just somebody who cares about teens and you mentor teens, what I suggest doing is getting into a 3-column or a 3-part Bible study where you pretty much just break it down into 3 parts. What we do is we say, hey, let's pick a verse, or 2 verses, or 3 verses, or pick a chapter, but make it manageable to where you say, I'm just going to focus on a specific part. And you start off by copying it word for word right there at the top or on the side if you want to go vertically over. But you just copy it word for word. Then you take that same thing that you've written word for word and you write it into your own words. You make it make sense for you. And spend another few minutes, think about how I will do something achievable about what I read. And so when I've been in groups with students and we've done that, where we said, okay, no talking, let's just sit down and take 5 minutes reading something from the Bible, 5 minutes copying it word from word, take another 5 minutes to translate it into our own words, and then another 5 minutes to write an I will statement, something that's achievable about how I will do something about what I read. And we talk about it together. We have some really good conversations. And what I would love to see for each family to do is find time just once a week to find about a 20-minute to 30-minute window once a week to say, okay, let's put away our phones, let's turn off the TV, let's just sit in a room. And that's how we've been doing it in our small groups at Shoal Creek, is we just sit around on couches and we say, okay, nobody talk for 15 minutes. Do this, copy something word for word, translate it into our own words, and then write out something I will do that is achievable because of it. And I think it's so huge, because then what we really want is to help mentor our students, mentor our teenagers to think about, how does faith fit on me? And so when we're able to sit and write it out and then talk about it, it's less intimidating. I know it can be really intimidating to try and talk to a teenager, oh, this is what you should do, or even just trying to engage a conversation of, so, how's your faith? How's your belief in God going? But to sit down in more of a formal environment, but have it be very simple, where it's like, we're just going to do these 3 things. We're going to read something from the Bible and copy it word for word. We're going to translate it into our own words, and then we're going to come up with something that I will do because of it. And finding that 20 to 30 minute window just once a week to do that together. When I've talked to students, when I've talked to families that have done that have found that 20 to minute 30 window each week to copy something out of the Bible and talk about it, boy, it's miraculous. It's marvelous in the type of conversations that actually happen. And you may have to try it and get consistent with it, and to not just do it 2 or 3 weeks and then fall off the cliff with it, but consistently finding that 20 to 30 minutes each week to be intentional about reading the Bible together has been huge for parents and the spiritual journeys of their teenagers. And so that's kind of my challenge on the parenting for this week, is to start to establish or find a 20 to 30 minute window each week to sit down and read the Bible together, and then just talk about it and to come up with an I will statement together. Good luck.